Welcome to the Vincent Project, an H-hour production where we help people become more skilled, more competent, and more brave when they're facing the most difficult circumstances of their life. I hope you enjoy our podcast. Podcasting our way into the future and all of the stuff and trying to go to Mars with Elon and SpaceX and all that stuff. I'm a big proponent. I think space travel is awesome. I think it's a good thing. I think it's that frontier kind of thing. Um, And I forgot to put the do not disturb thing on, of course, today, but I don't have time to go back and redo this. So we're going with it. So yeah, SpaceX. I believe in all of it, right? So it's kind of like any form of investing or action. If you buy one share of something, you're part of it, right? So if somebody was asking me, hey, Vince, if you were going to buy one share of SpaceX or some form of variation of space travel and why, I would look at it through the lens of I'm helping to put people on Mars. That's what I would do with my $100 or whatever it is. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. The United States of America, it rewards innovation and the frontier, people that are willing to risk and improve life and do things. I mean, there is a downside to democracy at times, right? And intersected with capitalism and the idea of it. It's still the best thing among the worst things. So I think that's my vision on that. Man, what a week. Last week, a lot of training, lots of training. Had a train for not-for-profit client, had our HR continuing education, got to meet a bunch of clinicians, some expert counselors, intermediate and novice counselors, all at very different ranges of their career. I feel like after an event like that, I think about 30 to 40% of the people that attend are candidates to work with HR and HR counseling. And I think one or two definitely will. Maybe three, maybe four, actually. So yeah, that's small business stuff, right? It's pragmatic. You're looking for top people that want to do things and are passionate and are interested and are looking to become better people, better humans, and that's what Brooke and I are trying to espouse and trying to do. Yeah, powerful stuff, right? And trying to make bets on Elon Musk and all the right things they're going to do. Hey, but in the training, I want to just get to it, right? So the other training was a for profit. I was called up for the B team by Mike, and I say that funny and kind of backhanded, but I guess it was the nature of how it fell, right? Is just having the opportunity to kind of step in and be a little bit of that wild card or X factor or variable, or we're not sure what's going to happen or what are they going to do. And the reality is, I did exactly what I said I was going to do at all the events. So the part though, the thread here in all of it, whether it was at our H-hour continuing education, my not-for-profit client up in North Jersey, or where I get called in to help support another contract up in Pennsylvania. The thread is the communication thing. And something I shared when I was sharing the stage with a couple of fellow veterans. We had like a little panel discussion and we're talking to 200, 300 folks and kind of sharing our perspectives on the important parts of leadership. What is it? How do you do it? What's the difficulty and biggest challenges and things you face? And it depends on your worldview and the lens you have when it comes to communication. Oh, it's verbal, it's nonverbal, it's this, it's that. It's all true. And situationally dependent, right? It depends on how you got to communicate. One thing for me though, I've learned for myself and something I use when I'm teaching communication, and then I draw from all of my experiences and observations at every level of my growth and development. So there's a little bit of my bias. Yet I would say the greatest communicators that the world ever seen are the greatest at active listening. Meaning two things. The first part is when somebody finishes a statement or a question or acknowledges something or states something, a really skilled communicator is going to pause for 2 to 3 seconds before they respond. Maybe it's a breath or two. Maybe it's a countdown in their mind. Maybe it is a tactile thing. They bring their hands together, whatever their process. The time delay is the important part because it's advantageous twofold. One is for the person that's sharing, stating, asking, whatever, it allows for them to give you a moment to identify and recognize that you are able to understand and grasp the concepts, right? And allow your brain to do everything it's supposed to do to form some sort of thought or sequence of thoughts. The second part is that for you as the individual in that moment when you're processing that stuff, it allows you to go a little deeper into the vocabulary bank, right? And find the appropriate language. Because there's a lot of words that are pretty similar in the English language and many other languages. The first one is not always the most accurate, precise. It'll get us to the general cluster of the thing, but the more descriptive, the better served will it be. So if you think about like a radio announcer versus a television announcer, the radio announcer is going to have much more descriptive language, and that's advantageous or helpful to other people. In that short delay of silence, the more skilled you get at that thing, the longer you can hold silence for. Which I just modeled right there on the podcast, right? It's an advanced skill and the ability to either fill the room with air or suck the air out of the room. And I think that is the skill acquisition that takes over time because how we do things on an individual basis and one on one versus how we present or do things with a group or a larger format, it's always going to look and feel very different. But the skill of the communication part is the most important part because it allows people to fill the air and share relative information to the particular story. So I would say anybody that I've ever seen do this, whether it was in the military, in business, in sports, it's not that they don't say anything. It's not that they're introverted, extroverted, ultraverted, whatever version of type of personality that they have. It's more along the lines of the decency to allow that person to finish their thought or idea. And it's not so much about power and control, but it is about influencing the flow of how the communication is shared. Uh, for me, when I get excited, I will rapid fire and machine gun my speech a little bit, especially when I'm teaching in college for whatever the reason. I'm passionate about what I'm teaching in the college class. When it comes to counseling and physiological psychology, learning and memory and all that stuff, yeah, I consider myself like an intermediate to expert level practitioner of those particular things, and that is what I help people do, whether it's the internal self-talk or the external self-talk. So what's cool in that is that there has to be a degree of credibility, authenticity, and realness in that, and that's maybe the last part I want to leave everybody with today in a funny way. Is the authenticity of the Vince and the Vince Here project. Last episode, right at the end, last 30 seconds, I dropped an F bomb in there. And that's my integrity. I gotta say that out loud. I gotta share it on the podcast, because I know that I did it and nobody else caught it, or maybe they did and they're like, "Oh, we'll see what happens." So I owe 225 and I'm gonna make a donation. I just gotta think about, how I'm gonna go to Mary about this so I can get the 225 from her to do it. And then but make it seem like natural, like I didn't really mess anything up, right? And those are old behaviors. So maybe the best way to go is like, hey, I made this promise to myself that if I dropped an F bomb, a D, a C, a P, and it came out in expression on the podcast, I was going to start modifying my behavior. Now it's to pay the consequences. And I literally defaulted to like, all right, how do I tap dance around this to kind of tell like half of the story? And then it's like, hey, I want to donate 225 to this particular thing. But that would be insulting to her because she wouldn't say anything, but she would let me like, yeah, no problem. Like I'll cut the check. Where you want to melt it, right? And she'll just do it, right? Or I'll do it, whatever. Um, but she would wait to see if I said anything about how that came about or why that's happening. So on the front end, I'm just gonna share it. Like, yeah, I messed up. Drop- Look, we're 7, 8 episodes into this, right? And I promised to do 52. So man, like 18% of this, 17% of this thing, something, whatever, carry the one, divide by two. Man, closer to being finished with 52 episodes than we are at the start point, and I think for the first one, it's not bad. And then I got to follow through and do that particular thing. But I thought it would have happened earlier and it didn't. So in that moment in time, right, our thoughts, feelings, behaviors are all they're measured and they're assessed. And it's that internal inventory that comes back to the communication thing. So on stage the other day in one of the events, we're back to the communication thing. And the beautiful thing in it, without anybody knowing, is much of the training with the not for profit was kind of the same topics. It was accountability versus responsibility, how they're interconnected, what the differences are. And the big one is delegation. Accountability is that one person, typically signature authority. Responsibility can be delegated throughout the team, right? At every level, every organization, every family, however, small, big groups, doesn't matter, right? The accountability is usually limited to one person. Now, there's situations it could be two or three. Generally, it's one, right? So, but with the larger group in a for-profit entity that has a very different mindset and worldview on how to get things done, they're all saying the same things. So I'm very consistent and I share a lot of the same things through an authentic lens. And so I'm up on the stage and I'm sharing a little about my experience. Well, part of the presentation, they reference and talk about Michael Jordan. And I point to right away how like, yeah, like I love Michael Jordan too. It represents, right? He definitely got his ass busted for 3 years, right, by the Pistons. They got beat up for 3 years straight to create that version, right? And so I went on a tangent, started filling in the spaces about my relationship with the guys I served with, and when things fell apart, that like they typically weren't mad. In many cases, they were just a little bit disappointed that I didn't ask them for help. I didn't raise my hand. It wasn't becoming inconsistent. And then there's other guys that kind of dipped off, and that's part of it too. What's magical though in the story of all this, I'm kind of being long-winded about this, is I get up on stage and I'm talking about, hey, how do we go about things as a business? What did I learn in the military on the battlefield? How do I inject these things and introduce to people these things? And I'm talking about winners win, uh, beating the losers is fun, dominating the winners is better. Um, Pain is mandatory, suffering is optional. All these little fun little cliche Vinceisms that I stole from somewhere else and made it better as my own, right? And so we go to dinner that night and we're sitting there and one of the owners chatting and talking with his team or whatever. Bring it around. One thing leads to the next, and Brick High School comes up where I went to high school many years ago, 30 years ago, I guess, right at this point. A little under 30 years ago. And him and his brothers own this business. They're all sons of Bricktown, right? And we start just talking about interconnection and how we know certain people and whatever. One thing leads to the next, and there's a dude there that played at Brick High School hockey. And it's wild with his boss there. He's like, yeah, they're a group of their team like won 3 public school state championships in a row. I didn't say that. I didn't bring it up or anything like that. I just shared that I played ice hockey, a little baseball, dabbled in some other sports along the way, but the focus became ice hockey. And it had instant credibility. It was like, huh. And small town, little town, big town stuff. Those guys will ask a friend in my age group, peer group somewhere, and they, hey, do you know this guy? And whatever they're going to say is accurate based on how they know me, right? Good or bad. Um, the winning thing is 100% a thing, though, and dominating. And I speak to the culture of when you have great role models around. Something I think my father got right, tying this back to youth sports, leadership development and growth, and why I think youth sports, there's a lot of things wrong with it, but I think there's a lot of things right as well. And those things that are right are the kind of people you might be able to get exposure to or be around and be influenced by. It creates access. And my father made a point to highlight that our little league coach, me and my brother, he ended up becoming like a superior court judge. Right, so fast tracking his career. We had that guy for 6 years of rec baseball. Like, right? Our summer ball coach was a principal in the high school, and his brother was an attorney in town. Ironically, I ended up using him for representation in 2 different issues I dealt with at some point, which is kind of fun. Say, look, he's wise enough to know he's investing in, the kids and they're young, yet, that's kind of wild, right? A lot of attorneys. And then, with ice hockey, it was a lot of successful business people, government folks, elected officials, medical practitioners, investors, real estate folks, all these high caliber people that have ways of doing things. And the thing I think back to is that as a parent, my father got right as he exposes to people with high character. And I think that part of it just matters a lot is, we're sensitive to the people around and what we do. And a lot of times it's not what's said. It goes back to what I stated before in the beginning of the podcast. It's the silence. It's what's not said. Because leadership in and of itself is an abstraction in many cases. Yeah, it can be defined and everybody has their way of mincing the words and spinning them around, getting people to do things and motivation and inspire, helping to multiply and create more leaders. It's all good stuff. And I love all of it. I geek out all of it. I love all the books and stuff. I think for me, the thing I reflect on quite a bit, though, and this goes back to my youth, to my adult life, sports, battlefield, the classroom, and family, friends. Leadership is an expression of love. There's nothing more or less to it. Right. It's like, hey, I love you enough to sacrifice this for you, and or I love you enough to be a jerk about it. Whatever the work is that's required, the thing that has to be done. Comes down to love. I really, really, truly believe it comes down to love. And not love in that sense of necessarily intimacy or some homoerotic, twisted, contorted version. It's just, self-respect, self-worth expressed as love for other people and human beings because we believe in them and we can see them becoming something that they don't see as themselves. And for me, I feel like I look back on that and it was kind of a reflective moment thinking about all the coaches at Brick High School, club coaches I had, travel ball coaches I had, local rec coaches. Never once did any of them see me being mediocre or misbehaving, ending up in all sorts of programs with kids that are had out of the behavioral stuff, right? The fact of the matter is that they built really long runways to allow me to grow. And then at some point, the season ends and hopefully you get one value or one line of thinking or one core belief from that experience. And now you have more memories that lead to more beliefs that support those emotional states. So that's it. My emotional states, man, winners win. That is how it works. And when you think about the artistic expression of communication, silence is the greatest tool. Things aren't going well with somebody, you need to break up with them, go silent. You're in a difficult negotiation and you're trying to squeeze out, navigate a better deal, use silence. Hey, you're in a one-on-one chat or conversation with a child, a parent, a loved one, somebody, be silent, just listen. Folks will tell you everything you need to know, right? And more importantly, they will show you exactly what they have going on over a long enough period of time. And I just think silence serves us. I think silence is a great tool. I think it's the ultimate leverage in response to most things. And I think that's kind of where we're gonna leave it for today. So yeah, a lot of leadership stuff, a lot of talking about the tactics, the techniques of it. How do you get good at it? Yet in all that training last week, whether it was the not for profit, the for profit, definitely at H-Hour. Dr. Vince and the folks he's around just seem to keep over delivering and adding incredible value to organizations and individuals. Back at it though. Yeah, silence is a great tool. Clients that sit down with me on a one-on-one basis, and I'll leave you with this to think about, is sometimes there's 3, 5, 7, 10 minutes of silence on a one-on-one basis. I went 37 minutes silent entering a group program one night. 37 minutes. I heard and saw everything I needed to know. The dynamic part of that is once it happens and you cross that threshold, that ill at ease or discomfort people may sit with at times, the rapport is accelerated in the room. There's a higher culture, or a climate, I should say, of respect that informs that longer vision of culture of silence. And in a fun way, I will quote Dave Powell and Mike Hansen. You're not really comfortable with people until you eat a meal with your shoes off. I think there's something to that right there. And nobody likes littering, or maybe good people don't litter, or maybe it's the bad people do litter. I haven't teased that out or thought about it. But that's so yeah. 225. I owe. I got to pay. That's the consequences of the behavior. That's my integrity. That's my process. Yeah, we'll keep the show going. Thanks for listening, man.